and welcome back to the MMA Split podcast for a new episode in a brand new year, our first show of 2022. We took a little bit of a break. There weren't any fights on, and I had COVID isolation, illness, whole bunch of crap that meant that it was a little tricky for us to all three get together. But we're here to not just catch up on some of the news, big fight announcements that have been made in the last couple of weeks or so, but also give our picks for the first fight night card of the year, headlined by Chikadze versus Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar's first fight back since his fairly one-sided loss to Max Holloway, where he got hit with more punches and significant strikes than anybody had ever been hit with before in a single UFC fight. And of course, Giga Chikadze in that period has gone from strength to strength, moved up to fighting top-ranked guys such as Edson Barbosa, made very quick work of him, and effectively this could be either a title eliminator or certainly the fight before the title eliminator, a kind of semi-final in a sort of bracket as you were. But lots on the line, two exciting guys. A bit of a feel with the cards that we've got a really big UFC pay-per-view that's coming up next week, and this is just the welcome back kind of fight. Gets a little bit shallow once we get past the first couple, but as Josh said in the group chat, he's just so glad to have fights back that he's even excited picking for Chase Sherman, and that is saying something. I am, of course,
really
Matt.
Isn't a deep...
I am, of course, Matt, joined, of course, by Sylvester and Josh. And where else to start? I think we should probably start with some of these fight announcements, because since we were last recording, we've had one of our most anticipated fights of the year announced, another one of our most anticipated fights of the year announced and then cancelled 24 hours later, and a title fight long overdue in the making being booked as well. Let's start with the one I'm excited about most. Masvidal will be fighting Colby Covington as the new headliner of UFC 272. We will get into why that is the new headliner of this card. But first of all, guys, what do we think? It's going to be a 5-round fight. It's a grudge match. Pay-per-view with no title on the line, but I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, the reason it's going to be a pay-per-view with no title on the line is because this is sufficient. You know, this makes up for moving the fight that I guess we'll get to later. Yeah, this is a fucking long time coming, man. It's a really long time coming, and I want so badly to see Jorge whoop that idiot's ass. It's just a bad matchup for him. I really don't know. Like,
Sly,
I want to see it. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Ask the question again, please.
Masvidal versus Colby.
I was confused. I was like, this is not the fight night that I'm researching on night.
No, sorry, yeah.
I quite like that fight. I don't have a clue who's going to win it, but I quite like it. I think it's going to be really good. I think Masvidal wins it. Well, maybe Colby wins it. I don't know.
I need Masvidal to win it.
I cannot.
Let's just set the scene. These guys used to be so close friends that they literally shared a flat with each other, trained with each other.
They didn't share a flat. Masvidal put that bum up when he had nowhere else to stay. Okay. They weren't flatmates. He slept on his sofa for a long ass fucking time, not really contributing. Masvidal sorting him out with coaches and stuff. Like, Masvidal brought this kid up under his wing, like really looked after the kids, and he just fucking spat in his face. He let his whole shtick go too far, stepped on all the wrong toes, was a real shithead, allegedly refused to pay a boxing coach that Masvidal put him in touch with. But he's one hell of a fighter, and this is a bad matchup for Masvidal. Well, I really, really need to see Masvidal win.
They used to train with each other, and the one thing that nobody denies is that when it came down to their wrestling practice, Covington destroyed him. I mean, it wasn't a competition. What is less clear is that there aren't a lot of reports of them doing a lot of MMA sparring. It seems to be that they would do a lot of technical work. They do striking. They do some light technical stuff on the feet. They do some grappling. But nobody is saying, here's 20 rounds of them doing MMA sparring, and this is what happened. I find it hard when I saw the fight. I got really excited, and then my thought process was, I don't see Masvidal winning this. I really don't. The only factor that does come into it, in terms of what he had to deal with Usman, is that I don't think there's the same level of physicality that he has to deal with. Like when he fought Usman, particularly in that first fight, you just felt that there was just a weight differential that was difficult to get over and a strength differential. Like Usman could just hold him against the cage and keep him there for 25 minutes if he wanted to. And I don't think Colby's going to have that kind of physicality advantage over him. And he's obviously not going to have the power threat, but Colby's very active. It's takedown after takedown after takedown, chain wrestling, mixing in the striking. And one thing I would say with Masvidal is that he can become he's got really good defense, but he can very much either be in attacking or defensive mode. And if you make him defensive, you can kind of nullify a lot of that striking threat. So I've got a feeling it might be quite one-sided, but I'm still fucking excited for it. I'm really hoping that Masvidal wins. And listen, I love a good non-title fights pay-per-view main event if it's worth it. And this one is definitely worth it.
Yeah.
So count me in.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. I wish we didn't have to have these shitty fight nights, but hey.
Well,
Hey,
there's a lot of fighters on the card. And also remember, last year, that two of the best cards of the year were fight nights. Font versus Aldo and Holloway versus Rodriguez.
They often are, you know. We've got quite a lot of relatively unknowns, some debutants on this one. It could still be a very exciting week. I've got to be honest, there's only really 4 or 5 fights that I'd say I'm kind of excited for, which is like half the card, but it's a fucking shallow card. There's not a lot of fights, and there's still only like 4 or 5 kind of names going up against each other. But fuck it, I think it's going to be a good weekend.
Soft launch, guys. Soft launch. Okay, the real launch is next week with the pay-per-view. Just to round up on some big fights that have been announced. Initially, UFC 272 was going to have 2 title fights. It was going to have Jan versus Sterling 2, which got announced. And then it also was going to have Max Holloway versus Alexander Volkanovski. But 24 hours after that fight got announced, Max got injured, re-aggravation of a previous injury. He is now out. That fight has been pushed a month later, along with the Jan versus Sterling fight. And Volkanovski will now fight the Korean Zombie. Josh, your thoughts on both title fights?
I am disappointed that the UFC have moved Jan Sterling from 272 to 273. However, I totally understand why. Sterling's pissed them off a lot. Jan's come out and said, the UFC literally do not want to let this guy headline a pay-per-view. And that's why it's happened to be moved. It's exactly the sort of shit Dana White does. It's a shame, but if it made room for the Masvidal Covington booking, then fuck it. It's worth it. It's a good fight. It needs to happen, obviously. I think we're all picking Jan, but, Sterling's no bum. Maybe he can make it a bit closer than it looked like it was going to go last time. The other title fight, I'm actually really happy that Korean Zombie is getting a second crack at the gold, almost a decade apart from his first title shot. I would have liked to have seen them give Oliveira the shot to come down and be a double champ. It's been a long time since he made 45, but that kind of excited me. I just wanted to see Charlie Olives get some more love.
Dude, the last time he made 45 was not the same time the last time he fought 45 was.
No, I know. And he's been filling out. Yeah, but fuck it. If it's for the gold, I'm pretty sure he's going to figure out a way to make the weight. I mean, who else would you guys like to have seen instead of Korean Zombie? Obviously, we had Cejudo saying he'll come out of retirement for it. I don't know how interested I was for that.
Didn't Cejudo say that he would fight Jake Paul for free if he was booked another fight or something?
Cejudo says a lot of things.
Yeah, he says a lot of corny shit.
The one thing that's been fairly consistent is that he was wanted to fight Alexander Volkanovski for well over a year. I mean, well over a year. Since back in 2020, he wanted to fight Volkanovski after he retired. So, okay, so how do I feel about these fights? Happy that Sterling versus Jan is booked. Sterling is on his last chance. This fight is in April, which will be 13 months after he won the belt. That means that if he drops out for any reason, he gets injured, he gets COVID, he gets the flu, he scrapes his knee, whatever it is, they aren't going to push this fight back, and they will have enough justification to strip him of the belt. So this is Sterling, like whatever condition he is in, he has to be in that fucking octagon on the night, or he loses his belt no matter what. Probably doesn't get another shot. So glad that they're booking it. Sterling's on his last fucking chance. Needs to pull something out of the bag. I don't think he will. I don't think Korean Zombie's right, man. He's on a one-fight winning streak. He's lost comfortably to guys that we've seen Volkanovski beat. And I wanted the Triple C fight, man. Let's see if Triple C can become C4.
Nah, Triple C's reaching at 35. Okay. He really had to turn it on against Marlon Moraes after that first round. He threw the kitchen sink at him. He's the better fighter, but he looked a lot smaller. Dominic Cruz, he just had a beat on him. He knows that he like dips his head. He comes in at funny angles. He just timed the knee. Cruz is kind of old anyway. He wasn't like an impressive dominant champ at 35. He's a legit champ, but he's not the kind of guy that I'm like, yeah, he should move on up to 45. I don't think he can lose. The guy was an elite 125er, very, very good 35er. He's way too fucking small for 45. It makes absolutely no sense. And Dana White does not want someone to come in, and if they did win, immediately retire again. He doesn't want to do another GSP. He didn't like it that time. GSP even kind of like has excuses for it, like it wasn't really going to pan out that way, even though we all know it really was. Because I think he kind of understands he needs to try and talk it back a little bit if he was ever going to come out of retirement again. These people piss Dana White off, and that's it. He doesn't do second chances.
You're looking at this the wrong way. Triple C is a terrible nickname. It is a terrible nickname to have bestowed upon yourself. Do you know what would be an awesome nickname? C4.
I mean, yeah, it's a good nickname.
Particularly if you've earned it.
Yeah, I think the dude could probably find an organization somewhere that will offer a belt for 115. I think that's more likely, honestly. 145 is not going to happen. Volkanovski is a beast.
Okay, so my question is this then. Why not just give Max a couple more months to recover?
That would have been my plan. That is what I would like to have seen. However, it's hard. It's not the easiest time right now to train, do a camp, get people in, do it in an affordable way. Things aren't very fluid. People aren't moving around in the same way. You can't just catch someone while they're in town. You've really got to bring people in. Fights are falling apart for reasons that aren't very easily controlled. So the guy wants to take a fight and make his money. Yeah. He's the champ. He's earned that right. Give him another fight. Korean Zombie, I think, is actually a good fighter, like a good fighter to slot into this position. Okay, I think with the Ortega one, if he doesn't eat that elbow that he ate, maybe it's a closer fight, and it's not necessarily a good matchup for him. For Korean Zombie, his stand-up really works well as a way to kind of threaten the level change, and he's just as good on the ground. Like against most guys, he stacks up well there, so he's just this constant all-round threat. Ortega had the longer, heavier shots in the stand-up, obviously a lot better on the ground. It was just kind of a shit proposition, and once he got clocked, it was just too much of a challenge. Yair Rodriguez, that win's kind of bullshit. It's not, but you know what I mean. Like if you're evaluating fighters, Korean Zombie beat him from pillar to post, and he lost in the last 10 seconds. Fuck, it happens. Who else did he lose to? Who am I forgetting?
Those are his only recent losses, man.
So what's he beat? Bermudez?
Bermudez. Recently, he beat Frankie Edgar. He beat Moicano. He beat Dan Ige.
That's the one I was forgetting. Frankie Edgar won in the same way. I've got to kind of downplay it a little bit because Frankie was well on his way to 35, and it was just a little hurrah once someone else pulled out of the fight, I believe. But Korean Zombie is a fucking beast. I think he could threaten Volk a little bit in the grappling. You know, he's going to stand in the pocket and not throw like volume shots. He's not going to be as easy to hit, I think, as Brian Ortega was. I think Brian Ortega had those long straight shots. And yeah, Korean Zombie, as his nickname suggests, does like to keep plodding forward. It was kind of a bad move for him. Against the guy that's going to have more ground to cover, like Volkanovski, I think he's going to be able to like trade a little bit more. He's still not going to get, you know, eaten up a bit in the stand-up. But I just feel like there's the opportunity there for him to engage in the clinch and maybe just kind of get it more into his wheelhouse. Who knows? I'm still not putting any fucking money on him. I don't care how long the odds are. Pretty sure Volkanovski's going to win this one, but I think it's a good fight. I like it.
It's a good fight. I think it's a good name for Volkanovski. I just don't think it was the right fight and the right decision to make in the circumstances. It's neither here nor there. April's pay-per-view. We've got 2 title fights. It's going to be great. Some other fights that got announced. We got some fun ones. It looks like Mackenzie Dern is going to be taking on the Tiny Tornado, Tisha Torres. I think in April, which is going to be a really good fight. We've got Alexa Grasso, was going to be fighting on UFC 270 against Vivian Araujo. Vivian Araujo is now out. Alexa Grasso is going to be fighting in March against Joanne Wood, formerly of the Calderwoods. And that fight is going to be on a fight night card in March. And I think that's all the big fights that I had in my mind. We have, however, had some cuts. So, unfortunately, Maki Pitolo's been cut, along with Matt Sales. And who were the other 2 that were cut? I know Prezalaris was cut.
Oh, fuck. Night Train. Jared Gooden.
Jared Gooden was cut.
That hurts. I know it's 1 in 3 in the UFC, but, you know, the guy was very entertaining. Matt Sales. It's another guy, you know, just, you know, all 3 of them. It's shit. Unfortunately, he's got the 1 win against the stack of losses. I think some of them might even be able to come back into the UFC at some point. Also, Michelle Prazeres has been released after failing a USADA test, while I believe still serving a USADA suspension. So correct. A 40-year-old Prazeres is now serving a 4-year suspension. Obviously, the UFC weren't going to give him the Tom Lawler treatment. They just let the man go fight on the regional scene somewhere else.
Fair enough. Bit of gossip news as well, very quickly, because I saw this story and just had to bring this up. Do you remember when we were watching Cheyenne Vlismas, previously Cheyenne Buys, and she'd switched to fighting under a maiden name, and we were wondering what's going on? She gave some interview where basically she said that she's been in hiding, being attacked and all the rest, and she's doing much better now, living in a different place, yada, yada, yada. And then he immediately tweeted out as soon as this, hiding from who? Everyone knows exactly where you are. You're in this location with the man that you were having an affair with behind my back. So, 2 sides to that story, but either way, it looks like that is a divorce that is going to be wrapped up fairly soon. So, yeah. Sly couldn't give any less of a shit about that story.
You home, bitch.
Oh, Sly does not care about the sex life of Cheyenne Vlismas or Pies.
So I was saying, I think, Chikadze by knockout.
Okay, so we will use that as the entry to go into the picks to make Sly happy. That is clearly the reason that he is here. I will just say this very quickly. Giga Chikadze was very unhappy that they announced the title fight for the featherweight belt before he had fought Calvin Kattar. Obviously, he feels that if he knocks the guy out in a minute and a half, he should have been the natural candidate to take over.
It's a valid argument. He's got a complaint though.
He has Calvin Kattar to get through first. Calvin Kattar is back after a year of being on concussion protocols, healing up, training, after quite literally getting the shit hammered out of him by Max Holloway.
I think Calvin Kattar has a complaint as well. He hasn't complained, but I'm saying both of these guys should be feeling like they should have delayed the announcement of any kind of booking until their fight, because the winner of this has a shout, you know? They're staking a claim.
I don't think Kattar has a shout, mate. Kattar, even if he wins, it doesn't have
Hang on, right. like, for whatever reason, they're not looking at the Ortega rematch right away. So I'm saying Korean Zombie makes sense to me. Charles Oliveira would have been my favorite, obviously, but that's actually no, sorry. The waiting and rebooking with Max would have been sort of top. Then Charlie Olives, and then I'd say Korean Zombie or the winner of this fight makes as much sense to me. If we're just kind of like patching him for an injured fighter.
The only thing I'd say, and I do feel both of these guys would still need one more after this, and this is my logic. Calvin Kattar's coming off, one, being inactive, and two, okay, it's losing to Max Holloway. It's not the same as a normal loss, but still, very one-sided fight. He'd only been on a 2-fight win streak before that, and that was when he then had fought the Shaolin from Dagestan. What's his name? Zabit Magomedsharadov. So we're not looking at somebody that's like 6 wins out of the last 7 and the only loss is Max. It's been a little bit, okay, you fought this guy, you did all right at the end, but you know, it was pretty one-sided for 2 rounds. Then you get a nice couple of wins, then you lose, now you're back. And the one thing I'd say with Giga Chikadze, he's been very impressive, but his previous win was Edson Barbosa. Legit as legit fucking gets. His win before that, if I'm not mistaken, was Cub Swanson. And I love Cub Swanson. Cub Swanson's great, but he's not a ranked fighter. So Giga hasn't got the body of work.
Who am I forgetting?
At the top level.
Like, so if we're not going to give it to one of these guys, and we're not going to wait, and we're not going to do the Ortega rematch, are we looking at Arnold Allen? Who am I forgetting? I need to bring up the top 15.
Okay, I get what your point is, but this is why I would say wait. And this is also why I said let Max Holloway have the fight in a couple of months, because it's just bullshit. What happens if the winner of Zombie and Volks, it's an absolute 5-round war and one of those guys needs 9 months off? And now Max is waiting a year, and then whoever else wants to fight waits after that. So I think they acted a little bit unnecessarily quickly there. And I think probably motivated by the fact that Volkanovski does not need any excuse to get out of fighting Max a 3rd time for obvious reasons.
Yeah, the only guy I've forgotten is Josh Emmett. So
Josh Emmett.
Right, just going along the lines of like Volkanovski deserves to make his money. They didn't want to delay the fight, whatever. For me, I say the winner of this fight or Korean Zombie makes more sense than Arnold Allen, who is on like a record-setting win streak. I think he's like tied for like longest active win streak, or maybe close to. And Josh Emmett, who recently fought.
What about Bryce Mitchell?
He's too low down.
If I can't put Arnold Allen in there, I can't put Bryce Mitchell in there. But I like where your mind's going.
I would have. Can we just quickly before we talk about the actual fight? Can we? I would have loved it if they'd announced Arnold Allen for no other reason than just to see the reaction from people. The media would have been so confused.
Do you remember when they were going to give Sajara Eubanks a title shot?
I remember that.
And then Joe Rogan said on his podcast, "Who's that?" And then they took the title shot away again. Like, it probably would have been like that. It would have been horrible. And you got a back boy.
Yeah, very true. He'll get there if he fights more.
Yeah.
He needs to fight a lot more. But what can you do? Before any of that can happen, Chikadze must fight Kattar. And my first thought with this is legs are longer than fists, and Chikadze has more weapons. Calvin Kattar is a really good boxer, but he's not somebody that really utilizes every weapon.
He's not a very good boxer. He's an okay boxer.
No, he's a good boxer. He's a very
good boxer. And
he faced an outstanding boxer.
He faced a living legend. All right. And it wasn't his night. And unfortunately, he's too tough to get knocked the fuck out. So that very bad night was a very long, very bad night. You know, it's in the record books now. He is a very good boxer. Okay. Max Holloway is a living legend. I would say, you know, not even in featherweight, I'd say in the UFC, Calvin Kattar is probably in the top 5-10% best boxing, best hands.
I'd agree.
But not top 5-10% for the best striking. I understand exactly what Matt's saying. And you never know. these guys, the New England Mafia, New England Cartel, they are a different breed. And when they're able to kind of land their shots, they are very, very good at wearing on people, sucking all the energy out of them, and riding that momentum to a victory. Usually, Kattar didn't put in an awful performance. Matt put in a legendary performance. You know, these guys, they're in the fight till the end. They do well. Rob Font, Jose Aldo, like what a fucking, it really tugs at your heartstrings by the end of it. Like what amazing savages they are. But
I just don't think he gets. The problem is, I could see Giga just.
Round in this one.
I just don't see Calvin Kattar getting close to Giga. He's so good at maintaining distance and using long strikes. You know, the big difference between him and Max is that Max is way more hittable, and Max likes to be up close in the pocket. Giga's just, I don't ever really going to think let him into that kind of range. Look at the Barbosa fight. Barbosa could never get settled into a range where he could really hit Giga clean. Everything was being fought at the range that Giga wanted it to be. And, you know, that body kick is going to be so effective. He can switch stances. The only thing I do kind of think, though, is that Max Holloway can take a punch in a way most people can't. And if you look at everyone else that Kattar's fought, apart from Hawaiians, he basically knocks them silly when he hits them clean. Like, even Zabit, who put a beating on him the first 2 rounds, was hanging on at the end and did not look like he was having a lot of fun. And I haven't really seen Giga get hit, which is a good sign for him. It means he's very technical, but it also means I don't really know how he responds to it. He does have that kind of kickboxer tendency of being a little bit upright with the chin up in a way that kind of more sort of classically Western trained sort of boxing background guys don't make. So I do think that Calvin Kattar could catch him and the fight could change on a dime piece if he hits him clean. But I just don't know if he's going to hit him clean. So I'm kind of leaning Giga, and I think body kick TKO or body shot setup TKO.
Well, he's very, very accurate with that body kick. And as Matt Brown alluded to, you can't warm up your liver. But I mean, the reason his head movement is so kind of stationary and stiff and upright is because he is so good at not just managing the distance, but understanding the moment to attack. And there have been guys that have been able to kind of slow him down a little bit. And I think, Omar Morales, I think, is very underrated. That was a good fight, a good performance, and not Chikadze's best day. I don't think Calvin Kattar is going to be able to kind of make it that uncomfortable for him. And I think every time he kind of tries to step in with the 1-2, he's just going to eat a liver kick. He's so accurate with it. You know, Chikadze, Jesus Christ. Who's the Japanese boxer? Finishes everyone with that liver shot.
Inoue.
Yeah. He kicks like Inoue, like throws that hook. It's scary accurate. Yeah, I'm thinking Chikadze inside 3 rounds.
Sly, your thoughts?
Chikadze KO.
Good thoughts.
Emphatic.
Can't argue with that. It's decisive.
Honestly, I like Kattar. I just don't think he'll recover after what he took last time. It was such a beating. It was so severe. It was just like,
that's interesting.
Yeah, I think he could knock him out. But I don't think Chikadze will get knocked out. I think he won't be putting himself in that situation. I think he's just a bit. I think Max Holloway really exposed how kind of like one-dimensional Kattar is. That he can knock you out, but you know, you kind of have to put yourself in the way of it. If you don't put yourself in the way of it, you're not going to get knocked out. So I think Chikadze is just slightly bit too fast. He seems to be smart enough. He's also, I think, going to be kicking him a lot. I think he's going to be making it uncomfortable and eventually just slowing him down as well, not even giving him, you know, the legs to keep going forward to try and aim for the knockout. So yeah, Chikadze KO, 4th round.
That's reasonable. He'll also very likely be distracted because the Patriots are playing the Bills in the playoffs at the same time that he's going to be fighting. And he was asked about this, and he's already basically said that under no circumstances is he going to miss any of the game that he doesn't need to. So it will be on his phone when he's going to the fight. It will be on in the dressing room as he's warming up. and he's even told his coaches to give him play-by-play updates in between rounds.
What an idiot!
Now,
Is this what you're talking about? Kattar here, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
And the thing is, he is a Boston strong, like he is of that ilk that like his life priorities are literally like the Patriots, the Celtics, and then
Bruins.
Your life, family, career, dreams, aspirations, all the rest.
Strange.
Yeah,
so it could be a rough, and I think the Bills beat the Patriots, so it's going to be a potentially rough night for New England Mafia.
Hey, is anyone stupid enough to pick the Bucks over the Eagles though? That's what I want to know.
Mate, congrats on getting in, and the Chargers didn't get in, which means your coach was the only rookie head coach to go to the playoffs.
Yeah, it's just crazy because for the first like 7 games, he wasn't even allowed to call the game the way he wanted to. So he only really had half a season to make the playoffs, and he fucking did it. Well, against a very weak schedule, but still.
Hey, listen, you beat what's in front of you.
Yeah.
We will see what happens this weekend in the playoffs as well, that the Dolphins will not be part of, and fired our coach. So, yay, back to square one. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Let's
it's crazy.
go back
the Eagles, the Dolphins, the Colts all finished like dunk, 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 dunk. I mean, I've got to believe we're going out of the playoffs next week. So we're going to have 3 first-round picks in a row. I think we've got like 15, 16, 17.
It's not bad.
It's kind of weird.
At least you have your own pick. At least you have multiple picks this year. Use them wisely.
1, 2, 3 would have been nicer.
Hey, listen.
Well, I'm pretty sure we're going to trade him away.
You might as well. At least trade one of them.
Fucking better trade him away.
Trade at least one. Maybe keep one at 15, trade one down, and trade one to
we've got 2 picks in the second round as well. So I'm thinking we could trade back to next year's draft with 2 of those picks. Unless we trade up or... it doesn't matter. I can already see Slide kind of zoning out.
I was trying to zone us back on for this reason. We will have a conversation about that when it's just you and me at some point. But
how about that Chase Sherman?
I think Usman will win by knockout. What? I don't know. Where are we now?
We're on the second fight. We're on the second fight. Okay. All right, don't worry. We're going to move through quickly, Sly. The rest of these fights get less interesting. I don't know why this is the co-main event. Other than they're just heavyweights and they just get stuck in the co-main event slot if there's nothing else. Jake Collier against Chase Sherman. I'm going to give this fight as much attention as it deserves. Chase Sherman by knockout. Why not?
Ah, my God. It's so hard because Chase Sherman does not deal well with smaller guys. Jake Collier is one of these smaller guys that's picked up to heavyweight and is proper like Jean Falante did. It's fat as fuck. I'm going to go Chase Sherman by decision. I'm embarrassed that this is the co-main. I can't believe the next fight is not the co-main.
Who is... Wait. Which one do you have?
Chase Sherman's the vanilla gorilla. And Jake Collier, I'm pretty sure, started off in the UFC at middleweight.
I thought the second one was Michel Pereira against Andre Fialho.
That got cancelled.
Yeah.
Oh.
In fact, as we speak, we're still waiting on whether Brito Algio is going to go ahead. Brito had I don't think tested positive. It was like he didn't test negative or something. It was like the test didn't go well, so he needs to test negative. And Algio is hoping someone falls out of the main event so he can still get paid. Wow. But it's not a lot of fights this weekend. It's kind of shit.
Yeah.
You both pick Sherman?
Correct. Jake Collier should be a middleweight. And he basically just got fat as fuck and said, who gives a fuck? Let's see what happens at heavyweight. He's like a young Jean Valente, as Josh said.
They both look like bullies. Fuck it. I'll take Collier.
Had to be different. We get to the fight.
He's the favourite in this.
What?
Chase Sherman is kind of not very good. I want to say shit. But like, Chase Sherman's not great. And he really needs someone to just kind of stand there for him. So if Jake Collier has been training a little bit, don't you dare jump on me on this. If Jake Collier has been training a little bit and he can move around, he should take an easy decision here. if he's just proper Jean Volonté fat as fuck, he's going to stand there, he's going to get knocked around a little bit, and he's going to lose an easy decision.
But dude,
It's not an exciting prospect.
How the fuck has he been working out? The whole reason he's fighting at heavyweight is that he stopped working out. Working out would involve him losing the weights that would take him back down to a lower weight class.
No, I think that dude could lose 10 pounds. Or you know what, like that guy could have just put on some muscle. Okay, just hit leg day a couple more times a week, and that guy could be moving around, dancing rings around Chase Sherman.
He's
the
obviously
vanilla
put muscle.
gorilla.
He's obviously put leg muscle on. He's carrying an extra 150 pounds of fucking weight around his side. That's how the body
maybe
works.
Being fat for long is going to play in his favor. That's a good idea. It's kind of like leg weights. Anyway, we've talked about this one for way too fucking long, considering the next two fights coming.
Brandon Royval. Man, we were hot on this guy. We were so fucking hot on this guy just to shoot straight to the top. And he had what happens sometimes. He came up against really good fighters that know how to deal with somebody being unorthodox and unexpected. And it's unfortunate. He has basically lost two really similar submissions. Where
the Moreno one was it broken collarbone?
Broken collarbone.
Dislocated shoulder or something. But yeah, it was like a weird kind of injury. And then the Pantoja one, I'm pretty sure it was like Pantoja dropped him, then he dropped Pantoja in the first round. Just wild.
No, that was the Kare France fight. It was still wild, and there was a lot of scrambles. But in both fights, what happened is that Royval has this kind of unorthodox way of trying to roll out of submissions and scramble through, and that's how he ended up dislocating his collarbone. And then with the Pantoja fight, it was just a great example of somebody with really solid fundamentals against somebody just trying to be a little bit too wild. And he ended up just rolling himself into position. I can't remember what the submission was, but Pantoja was able to then kind of read it and catch it and put him in a really bad spot.
Naked choke.
That's right. Bontarine presents those same kind of issues, I think, as Pantoja. You know, the fight he lost to Kare France, he was, really dominating that fight for the first two rounds. It wasn't going well for Kare France. So, although I really like Brandon Royval, I'm kind of leaning Bontarine, and I think it's going to be another submission.
I'm actually leaning more towards Royval. I just think Royval might have a bit more standing up. But it's going to be a good fight. Probably card.
Like Bontarine's not too far removed from the loss to Ray Borg, and I know MMA math is bullshit, but just in my heart, I can't believe a guy that loses to Ray Borg beats Raw Dog. So I'm going to go Royval. Out of respect, I'm going to say decision, because Bontarine is decent.
Next fight,
on submission.
Submission, decision, and I am going Bontarine by submission. Should have some good ground game, some good scrambles. This is going to be a lot of fun either way. And then really third best fight on the card. Katlyn Chookagian is back to take on Jennifer Maia in a battle of the former challengers. What can you say, really? I think Chookagian is in that weird situation where I think she beats most of the top 15, but loses to the real elite fighters in the weight class. And I think she's fought Jennifer Maia before, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this is a rematch, yeah.
This is a rematch. I don't recall it being particularly close. And with the length she's got and the way she moves and the fact that Maia is a little plodding, she's not particularly light on her feet. She has got some decent boxing, but she struggles to deal with people that are able to kind of move around and have length and reach. I just think this is just going to be another classic Chookagian decision. Technical, makes it look fairly easy. You look at her and think she's an elite level fighter until you remember the Andrade fights and the Shevchenko fight.
And she's never finished the fight. So, yeah, man, I got to believe she wins the rematch. She only ever wins by decision. It's got to be decision.
Sly.
Jennifer Maia wins by decision.
Oh, going in the other direction. Chikadze, of course, does have a brown belt, not the highest level of jiu-jitsu, but generally she's looked fairly safe when she has been brought down to the ground. Tends to just pull guard and keep it simple, but we'll see. I'm going to be honest, next two fighters are against two guys I've never heard of before. We've got Dakota Bush taking on Vlacheslav Bolshev. I'm going to follow my rule. Slava Claus, I like that. I'm going to go with my rule of not picking guys I don't know, so I'm going to say Dakota Bush by decision.
Yeah, Dakota Bush had that loss to Austin Hubbard. I think Dakota Bush is an interesting fighter. Bolshev has got a little bit of hype behind him. He's trains at Team Alpha Male. Thinking it's kind of like a larger kind of Davishvili, maybe. I haven't seen him fight once. I'm just buying into a little bit of hype here. I'm going to go Bolshev by decision. Also, Slava Claus is a fucking sick.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have to pick him for his name.
Pretty fucking sick, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take Slava Claus by KO. I also like that the UFC's got his image in black and white for some reason. Like,
because he's making his debut.
Beautiful.
Well, let's see if Christmas can come in January for Slava Claus. Should we do picks for Bill Algier? Do we assume this fight's still happening in some capacity?
Yeah, let's assume it's going ahead.
So Bill Algier taking on another newcomer, Juanderson Brito. Great name. Same rule as before. I pick with what I know. Bill Algier by decision.
I don't know why I'm reaching so much on these debutants. I think we've got like 3 in a row and I'm going through all of them. I'm going to go Brito by decision.
I reckon Brito by submission.
Bold picks all round. Well, that's the main card. Switching across to the prelims. Good old Jamie Pickett is back, taking on another newcomer, Joseph Holmes. I'm breaking my rule. I don't like Jamie Pickett that much, so I'm picking Joseph Holmes.
Wow.
It's harsh. I think Pickett's all right. Quick scan of Holmes' records. Looks like he's a submission threat. It's not exactly playing into Jamie Pickett's strengths, so I'm going to go with Holmes. Take my hand already on that, but yeah, I've gone 3 debutants in a row. Reaching.
I'll take Pickett by KO.
Very nice. Court McGee is back to take on Ramiz Brahimaj. I love Court McGee. Just a good, solid, never going to be ranked. Loses to any guy that's really good, but does everything right. Will sift through the pretenders from the whatnots. He's losing this fight, though. He's losing this fight. I had a look at who Ramiz has beaten, and I think this is Ramiz decision by submission.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna venture a guess. I feel very confident in it. Brahimaj. I guess I said that right. I mean, he's fought a couple of times this year, where we had kind of ran through Sasha Palatnikov. I'm gonna go Brahimaj by decision. I hate picking against Court McGee, but it is what it is. I don't want to talk about that anymore.
Brahimaj by submission for sure. This guy's solid.
Yeah. And then we got a change. Featherweight Clash. Brian Kelleher has a new opponent. He is now taken on Kevin Croom. Kevin Croom, one of those good old-fashioned guys. He's been around the regional scene for bloody years. Got his chance. Who did he knock out when he got his chance in the UFC or submit? It was a big shock.
Oh yeah. And then it got overturned like fucking because he was like fucking weak. Roosevelt Roberts.
That's the one. And nobody gave him a shot, and he went through him in like a minute and a half. And since then, he's lost to Alex.
31 seconds.
31 seconds.
Yeah.
And then obviously he's had, is it 1 or 2 defeats since then? I know he lost to Alex Caceres, but
yeah, just Caceres.
And listen, man, Caceres is practically a ranked fighter now. The way that he's fighting, I mean, he's looking like a new man. So I give some credence to that, and I think Brian Kelleher at featherweight isn't the same guy that he is at bantamweight. I do think he can get a little bit overwhelmed by size. But Brian Kelleher can boom, man. He's got power. He's got submissions. He can pull that guillotine out of nowhere. I just think he's a better fighter than Kevin Croom. I'm going to say Kelleher by knockout.
Yeah. And I think with the extra weight on as well, you can notice it in his punching. And frankly, Croom's a little lanky. I think he's going to snatch that neck. I'm not just saying submission, I'm saying guillotine. Now, if he wins by any other kind of submission, I'm still claiming the points. But
understand.
It's points to look like a big man on the podcast, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Kelleher by KO, by the way.
Very nice. So we're all aligned in the same direction there. And then the final fight of the night that's still on, Charles Rosa has stepped in to take on TJ Brown.
There's a pattern here.
Yeah. Yeah. Lot of fights, a lot of short notice fights, a lot of replacements. And listen, I like Charles Rosa a lot. He's not an elite guy. And he loses that fight that he needs to win every time that's going to kind of push him back up towards somewhere that he can kind of be considered. But I think he beats TJ Brown.
Well, this is the pattern I'm talking about. Since coming into the UFC, it's been lose one, win one. Lose one, win one. Charles Rosa is due. Sorry, TJ. It's not going to be downtown's night. Charles Rosa by decision.
I'm going to say decision as well.
TJ by submission.
There we go.
You're not respecting the pattern. That's not how Charles does it.
Sly has his own pattern.
Yeah. Fuck your pattern.
Right.
And his pattern is basically to pick the opposite of us if you and I both pick the same fighter, unless he's 100% sure that that fight is going to win.
Maybe.
Well, guys, that's
That's
the pick show for today. We will be back next week with 2 shows. The weekly podcast will be returning, and of course, we will be doing picks for UFC 270. Until then, guys, enjoy the fights, like and subscribe if you can, and bye Dave, bye Laurie, bye Trifo.
Bye.
Bye Laurie, bye Dave.